Management Information Question and Answer live broadcast. I'm Rachel Pokrandt, and I have the great privilege of serving as the Vice President and Campus Dean of the Leadville campus. Thanks for joining us for this evening in Leadville, Colorado. Colorado Mountain College is a multi-campus institution spread across 12,000 square miles of the Rocky Mountains. We enroll around 16,000 students per year, and we're spread across 11 sites. So although we're a pretty big college, we have a really small campus feel, which we all love here in Leadville. We have on-campus housing for students coming to us from across the state and the country, and we're lucky enough to have a unique funding model that allows us to significantly subsidize our tuition in order to make our college one of the most valuable degrees and the most affordable degrees in the country. This evening, we have a panel of experts that work with us here at the Leadville campus, and they're all from our Natural Resources Management Program and Field Institute. And I'm just going to have them quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. If you could start, Katy.
Sure. I'm Katy MacKnight. I'm the Assistant Project Manager with the Natural Resource Field Institute here at Colorado Mountain College, and I help run the Field Institute in the summer with a few other people here.
Thanks, Katy. My name's Dirk Rasmussen. I'm a project manager with the NRM Field Institute here at the Leadville campus. I have a bachelor's degree from Colorado College and a master's degree in geology from Western Washington University.
Hi, I'm Taylor Applewhite. I'm a 2015 graduate of the NRM program and a graduate in a couple weeks from a university, so here to give a student and graduate perspective.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kato D. I'm faculty in Natural Resource Management Program. And I've been here for a little over 12 and a half, or close to 12 and a half years. And I've received my bachelor's and master's degree in geology from the University of Kansas and Ph.D. in geochemistry from Colorado School of Mines.
Hi, my name is Dr. Katy Warner. I have a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology from Colorado State University in Fort Collins. I also have a master's degree from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and then I went back to CSU in Fort Collins for my PhD in ecology. I'm the program director for the NRM Field Institute, and I've been here for about 2 years.
Great, so hopefully your juices are flowing with some questions out there. We have an audience here in the room of folks that have been touring our campus and spending time with us today. And then if you're out there in Facebook land, please start thinking about your questions and sending them in on Facebook Live, and we'll get them answered by our expert panel. One other note is you're going to hear us say NRM a lot and refer to the NRM program, and that stands for Natural Resource Management. So sorry about that acronym, but I'm sure we'll be throwing it out there a lot because it's kind of a mouthful. So let's start with Kato. Could you give us an overview, Kato, of the academic program here at the Leadville campus?
Sure. So just some quick highlights and just an overview. The Natural Resource Management degree is an Associates of Applied Science, or AAS degree, and it's a 2-year degree, and so it's specifically designed to couple things: prepare students once they graduate for what we consider like a field technician type position. The other application is we can actually use it to transfer to other 4-year institutions if you desire to obtain a bachelor's degree. So there are 62 credit hours that you have to take for the interim degree, and 34 credits of those 62 credit hours are actually we call Guaranteed Transfer, or GT courses, and those courses are accepted by all 4-year schools within the state of Colorado. Other institutions outside the state of Colorado will have to be approached by a case-by-case condition, and it requires about 1,200 credit contact hours, which seems like quite a bit, and there's a reason for that, because for the most part, most of these courses are what we call experiential courses, where it's a nice fine balance between a classroom, a field, and a laboratory approach. So that pretty much accounts for a bulk of most of those contact hours. Another thing to keep in mind, this degree is only offered in Leadville. Doesn't mean you can't take it other classes, like some of the GT classes, but there's very specific classes that are like natural resource designations you can only take up in Leadville. If there's any questions regarding transferability, we do have some we call articulations to Colorado Western State University. I always get that one mixed
Colorado
up. Yeah.
Recently changed their name.
Yeah, and Colorado Mesa University. What we mean by a articulation is when you take the courses and you complete the degree here and you have satisfactory academic progress, then all those courses will directly transfer to this institution. You'll start off as a junior level status. We also have what are called transfer pathways with Colorado State University. That's a little bit different. They basically identify which courses they require and which courses are comparable that CMC offers. And so it's also considered kind of a case-by-case basis. And so the other thing too to keep in mind is these courses have that really significant experiential learning components. So it's a really important part to understand because as you go into this program and also through the Field Institute experience, you're going to be outside. And we have a new course that we've included in our curriculum called Outdoor Recreation Leadership. And that's to prepare students to work in these sort of conditions and to make it a safe and comfortable learning experience. And in Leadville, the conditions can change on a dime. It can go from warm sunny days to cold freezing rain within a couple hours. So it's really important that students understand that. And so we've included that as part of our curriculum. The last thing I would also like to add is there's a lot of resources available to ensure that you have success as you go through this through that NRM academic program.
Great. So the other unique aspect of the program here at Leadville is that our academic program works in concert with our Field Institute, which actually does real-world projects in the surrounding area in the natural resources field. So students are out doing projects with all kinds of industry partners. So Dr. Warner, could you speak to that a little bit and explain to the audience what that looks like for students?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Rachel just mentioned, the NRM Field Institute, it's really designed to complement the academic coursework that you'd be taking here by providing additional opportunities to get hands-on work experience outside of your classes. So like Kato mentioned, many of the classes include a lab or some sort of outdoor fieldwork component to them, and the Field Institute is designed to build off of that and add to that experience. So every summer, the NRM Field Institute hires a crew of field technicians who are typically students either here from CMC or from other universities to come work on real-world projects with our staff and with our project partners. So we work with a wide variety of partners, including several federal agencies like the U.S. Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management. We also work with state agencies and as well as local organizations. And so these partners often hire our team to come out and collect data for them, and that can include water quality sampling, soil sampling, vegetation monitoring, and we also help them with some of these long-term scientific data collection monitoring efforts that are typically here in Lake County or the surrounding counties, although occasionally we work farther away than that. Working for the Field Institute isn't a required part of the NRM program, but it's a great way to get some additional hands-on experience, and so we really encourage our students to apply to come work for the Field Institute either after your first year or after your second year here. It's very helpful if you've had some of your NRM coursework already and also some additional science classes. So once you have some of those courses under your belt, it's a great way to build off of what you've learned in class. If you've taken an ecology class or a hydrology class or a GIS class, and then you come work for the Field Institute, you'll get to apply those skills on real-world projects.
Fantastic, thank you. So that's kind of the party line, as you probably all realize. Now I'm going to push it over to Taylor, who is a former student of ours here, who can tell you what it really felt like and what those experiences were like for you and how that transferred for you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. So, like they had kind of mentioned, you have a very diverse set of classes and experiences that you can get throughout this program and your coursework here at CMC. I think one of the most important and beneficial parts of it for me before transferring on to a four-year university was to actually be able to get out there and develop my interests, see what I liked the most, and really figure out the pathway that I wanted to go that I think is very unique to this program. Sometimes just reading out of a book or getting that kind of learning, you can't really figure out what you want to do until you're already a little far into it, and it could be a little too late. So it's a great way to develop your skills, your interest, if you want to just go on into a job right after this, or if you do want to transfer into a university. And it's fantastic that you get to work right alongside your professors in such a small setting. Your questions are answered. You also get to work alongside the many different entities that was mentioned earlier, and that really helps you develop the partnerships and the understanding about the needs of the industry, and where you can put your interest and maybe find the right career path for you. So really great experience, and personally wouldn't trade it for anything. So
Taylor, you were both with the Field Institute and work study, right?
I was. Yeah, so the work study gives you an opportunity to work throughout the school year. That's through your financial aid through the FAFSA. You can do anything from some office work that's absolutely necessary. You can get out in the field, take some water samples for the EPA, or do a little GIS work. So lots of different opportunities in the work study program, and that also kind of sets you up for jumping right into the Field Institute. You already have some of that baseline experience, and then your coursework can also supplement that as well. So it's all a nice, smooth transition, and overall, really great.
Cool.
Wonderful. So are there any questions from the audience so far? All right. Well, I wanted to go next to Katy and to Dirk. Natural resource management is an overarching umbrella for a lot of different career paths that students could take. Could you speak about some of those and what kind of areas they could go into and how that relates to some of the experiences they might get at CMC?
Sure. I can start. I would say, well, I'll start with my background first. I have a background in geology, sedimentary geology specifically. And it's been really fun to work with a team that's so interdisciplinary, everything from wildlife ecology to more forestry, range and ecology specialties. But I think one of the things we do really well is offer students a breadth of experiences. And we challenge them to not only do the things that they may be interested in, but challenge them to kind of press the envelope on some of the things they think they may be interested in, and identify things that maybe they then know they aren't interested in pursuing. But I would say geology, right now we have several sort of water quality, sediment transport projects. What else, Katy?
Well, my expertise is in restoration ecology and forestry and wildland fire science, and I feel like some of the fen delineation work we do is great as far as covering some vegetation. For me, myself, my degree path was a little bit longer than most. I spent about 13 years going through school, and in the interim, I had a lot of work experience that I gained while I was out of school before I came back and finished my degree. This was all done at a traditional four-year university, a really large school, so I feel like had I maybe gone down this path with CMC or a similar two-year college, maybe I would have benefited a little more having some of that experience, that field experience, and certainly things that people coming here for the first time can accrue without having to kind of step away from school, gain that field experience, that work experience, and then come back. So you might gain a lot more experience in a much shorter amount of time going down this route.
And I would add, Katy and I have just finished our first full season working with students, which is one of the most rewarding parts of our job, getting to work with them all summer in the field. And one of the feedbacks I heard at the end of the season was really gratitude for getting a breadth of experiences and finding out what they didn't like. That I think was really valuable to some of our students, in addition to some things that they were really excited about. So.
Yeah, it's a great takeaway. All the field work that we do and the exposure that students get here at this campus, or just at CMC in general, any of our campuses, just having that hands-on learning experience, I think, really helps a lot of people establish a more direct path into their career and decide what they want to do or what they don't want to do. So it's really valuable.
Great. So we have a question coming in from Facebook Live from Lauren, who says, how much time do you spend learning outside versus inside? And let's make sure we get Taylor to answer that as well as Kato.
Some verification.
Yeah.
I think that's, I think it's one thing we take a lot of pride in is we give students that significant experience, not necessarily just in the classroom, but also applying it out in the field. And so it really depends on the class too. It really, there's certain classes that are 100% field, like our field monitoring techniques class. And then there's some that have kind of a good balance between them, like hydrology, or there's some soil science class too. And then, English Comp 1, well, it's English Comp 1, so you got to take it for what it is. And so, but I think overall, I think that's what students really enjoy, and that's really what attracts students to this program is they get to apply their knowledge outside and kind of in more complex situation too than with something that's predetermined in a textbook or in a written lab. It provides a more challenging type of setting where, wow, I didn't realize you would see this and it didn't look like this. And so that's a really good thing. It gives students a good appreciation of how complex and dynamic the natural world can be. And students love it. And I've never heard anyone complain. Well, maybe when it's cold and snowy, I take some of that back. But I think overall students are really highly satisfied with their experience through this degree program. And the offerings that the Field Institute has too, which just really builds upon that foundation they learn in the classroom. And so I'll leave it to Taylor and see what he thinks.
So I think if you average it all out, it's probably about 50-50, taking into consideration some of those other courses like your English classes and stuff like that. But I think within the actual program, kind of the harder science stuff, it's probably a little bit more than 50-50. I remember my very first class here at CMC, the first day I started here in 2012, it was field monitoring techniques, and we were out in the field taking some groundwater samples and learning right away how to process those. And I was like, wow, this is a great program. I get to be outside. I think it might have still been snowing a little bit in August, but I was able to get outside, and that's how I knew right away this was going to be a great program, because I got to be outside, see the natural world right up close, and really understand all these processes firsthand. And I can attest that going forth to a 4-year degree or into university, the time you spend out in the field is pretty minimal. So I do miss the times of being here and being able to spend time outside. So really great.
I would just add to that Lake County is a very unique place insofar as we have, we can actually go out our doors into the National Forest. There are many environments that are sort of in their natural state, healthy, unimpacted, and then we contrast that with Lake County's long and colorful history of mining and some of the environmental impacts that have resulted from that. So we have this kind of nice contrast where we can look at some of these highly impacted systems and then some systems that are more in their healthy natural state. That provides some really strong learning opportunities.
Great. So talk to me about class size, because I'm imagining you're not going out with hundreds of students into the field running around in the snow. So I'm sure folks that are interested in the program would want to know, how many students are in your average class, and what does it look like when they go out in the field? How much of your time are they getting, Kato, or how much of the Field Institute folks do they get time with? Because I think at a community college, that's one of our strengths, is that you get much more time with your professors instead of them being sort of a sage on the stage at the front of the class. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So it varies quite a bit. Typically the smallest classes will average about 8. And that's mainly the classes you would experience as an interim student. And they can go upwards to 12 to 15. And some of the larger classes, I think the largest class I've taught here at CMC was 35. And it seemed pretty large of a class, but overall, everyone still had the same experience as a small class. And so that wasn't a limitation for us. And I think it's really great because even during a lab or field or even a lecture session, everyone had some time to provide their inputs, ask questions, and answer them as well. So I think that was really important. And one thing I really thrive off of is the one-on-one interaction with students. I really like to say, hey, that's a great question, let's talk about that a little bit more. And so I think the small class size is really important for the learning component of the NRM program. And the same thing happens out in the field too. We have equipment, and the small classes enable you to use the equipment a little bit longer. So you're not spending a lot of time twiddling your thumbs or Facebooking. And so that's really important because you get that one-on-one instruction. You get a significant more time with your instructor asking questions, really getting that, because really to understand exactly what you're doing and understand the operation of equipment and collecting data, it's time put in. And so if you're out there with a class of 50, you may get like 5 minutes. But a class of 8, you're going to get probably an hour on that equipment. And so the class size has always been really one of our big selling points too. And even if we get to large class sizes with the field component, we have been able to divide those up so we still maintain a small class size even though there's a large student population, because that's how we feel it's very important to have that time, that one-on-one instructor time. And the same thing goes outside the classroom too, where the instructors are typically like, hey, I got 4 hours of office time. And yeah, if you're only a student, you can take up that whole 4 hours of office time if you so desire. And so that's another important thing. You don't have a line of 20 students in front of you to ask a question to a professor outside a classroom. Usually they're right there just waiting, and you get instant, answers, so you don't have to wait in line.
I hear that feedback from students quite a bit, that if they need extra help with a class, that faculty tend to be fairly available. I know Kato has his doors open and has office hours, but I see the same thing for math classes and for other classes on campus where if you need some additional help or time with your instructor, there's faculty and staff available to help out get through that material. So that's definitely a benefit to being at a smaller campus and having classes that are relatively small as well, that you have access to faculty in a way that you really don't at a giant university.
I sense that as well. Katy and I both have student workstations in our office, and students are regularly utilizing those spaces, and provides kind of an area for us to mentor them. So it's great.
Yeah, I'd like to add that those relationships, those close relationships that you're able to build with your professors and some of the adjunct as well, that's really invaluable as far as your own personal development. I still keep in contact with Kato every once in a while, and this is a couple years later, and I keep in contact with actually most of my professors here, and through that relationship, they've helped me out with some career paths potentially, some potential jobs, and also just general life questions, and just having an extra friend in office. So it's really important, and it meant a lot to me.
Right, well, we have another question coming in from Facebook Live. How much time do you spend learning? Oh no, we answered that one already, sorry. What type of projects do students get to work on, and with whom? So that's probably one for you, Katy. It's some of the projects that you guys currently have in the Field Institute right now.
Yeah, I can start with that, and then Dirk and Katy, if either of you have something to add, I can pass it over your way. So at this time of year in the spring, we don't have as many projects going on because most things are still under snow up here in Leadville. But it is the time of year where we're starting to do some of our surface water sampling. And so for those projects, we actually go out on several sites, either along the Arkansas River or some of the waterways that contribute to the Arkansas, and are actually collecting water samples and doing some processing of them and then sending them off to labs. We're also, later in the summer, we'll be moving into some additional projects with the U.S. Forest Service, where students get to learn about wetlands characterization, specifically about fens, which are a type of wetland that exists up here at mostly at high elevation. So we get to go hike into some fairly remote areas, and we're doing some ground truthing for the Forest Service. So they send us to sites where they think they have fens or potential fens, and we go out and check and see if it's really that type of wetland, and if it is, then we have some different protocols that we follow for the Forest Service. We collect data for them and fill out the information they need and send that on to our Forest Service partners. What other projects do we have going on this summer?
We've got a big project that it's in its 5th year. We're wrapping up. It's part of a Section 319 non-point source pollutant grant that's administered by the state. That's part of the Clean Water Act. And it's in a local mining district, the Sugarloaf Mining District. We're working on some erosion control issues there, some reductions in sediment toxicity, removing sediment or mine waste tailings from the drainage and putting them in a place that's a little safer and hopefully is having positive impacts on downstream water. That's one.
We also have a contract with a major bottled water company that has some property down near Buena Vista, and they have contracted us to do some vegetation monitoring, but also groundwater monitoring to make sure that they're in compliance with how much water they're essentially allowed to take out of that water, that aquifer. So that's another thing that we help them achieve down there.
We've got a couple of other smaller projects, both with the Abandoned Minelands Division in the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, looking at some smaller scale abandoned mines, possible remediation treatments for those sites, some UAV drone mapping of those sites and monitoring, so some cool smaller scale stuff as well.
Those are probably the highlights of this upcoming summer. We have projects also throughout the year that students can get involved with. Like we mentioned earlier, there's opportunities to get involved in a work study capacity or as a volunteer to come help out throughout the school year with some of the less glamorous side of natural resource management, but we often have data entry and equipment repair and maintenance and inventories and things like that throughout the academic year that are absolutely vital in keeping the program going and making sure that we have work lined up for the following summer. So it's really important work, but it's not always quite as exciting as our summer field work where we're outside a lot in the winter, which is fairly long here in Leadville. We're inside more doing the planning and report writing and data entry and that side of these projects, because many of these projects, they kind of go year round. We just collect most of our data in the summer and then have to produce different types of reports and send that data that we've been collecting to our project partners in the off season. So there's opportunities to get involved in all of that as well if you're a student here, whether you're a work study student or just have a special interest in sort of the data management side and data entry side and want to understand part of the whole process. There's ways to get involved in that throughout the school year as well.
So it sounds like you're connected to a lot of project partners that students could be potentially interested in working for in the future, folks like U.S. Forest Service and BLM and some of the industry partners too. What kind of connections can students make through the work they do here through the program?
That's a great question. I think there's opportunities both during your classes. I know many of Kato's classes, he brings in guest lecturers and guest speakers from some of those agencies. They're often some of our same project partners that the Field Institute then works with in the summer. And during the summertime, often our project partners will come out at least once or twice throughout the season to see how we're doing, to meet our students. They tend to like to work with CMC because of the student focus to the work that we do, and so they really see it as a win-win. They get to help support students having these paid summer jobs, but they're also getting to meet the upcoming class of resource managers, talk about what the current trends are in those fields, and it's a way for students to meet people who work full-time for a federal agency or for a state agency or a local nonprofit, and so you can kind of you can talk with those folks and get a real first-hand feel for what it would be like to work in some of those different environments. I don't know if you have anything to add to that I know you work with some of our project partners pretty closely for some of your classes.
Yeah, I think it was a great point too about the guest speakers, because they actually are project partners. They're also part of what we call an advisory board. And so they help provide us some guidance on the courses, and then also, it's kind of keep us in tune with what the industry is expecting from graduates of a program like this and prepare students for success. And it's pretty much right off the bat, your first few weeks here, you're going to be meeting a lot of the people that we work with, that we're associated with, and from the Forest Service to Colorado Parks and Wildlife to the EPA, even from private sectors such as Climax Mine. And the nice thing is, this is where you get your first dip into seeing, wow, look at all these professionals. They all do something completely different. And then they talk about how did they get to that point too. Their academic and professional training, because it's, that's made them very successful in their career. And so I think that's really for me, it's a very strikingly important part of this program that I wish I would have had as an undergrad, to be honest. I didn't have any association with people in the industry probably until I started to work in the summertime after I got my bachelor's. And so I think it's really important for students to take advantage of that, whether it's through classes or through the Field Institute, or even if you see them around in town too. Pretty much everyone is approachable.
Can you speak a little bit more to why Leadville specifically is so rich in the availability of these projects and the surrounding natural resources? I think Dirk sort of touched on it with the mining history, but it really is kind of a unique place to study natural resource management and geology and all associated fields.
Sure, I can start, and we can all add in.
Yeah.
So Leadville, some of the ore body deposits here are part of the Colorado Mineral Belt. Placer gold was first discovered in California Gulch in the 1860s, and sort of silver and gold mining was sort of the main bread and butter from the 1870s, 1880s, kind of petered off towards the end of the century there. But there has been ongoing mining to present. And some of the impacts of that mining, to varying degrees, have had varying levels of environmental impacts. And some of the remediation work that we do focuses specifically on the interactions between those mining impacts and waterways here in Lake County and greater Colorado as well. So that's kind of a start.
Yeah. So, because Dirk talked about a really important part too, is the thing that makes this area fairly kind of interesting too is from a water resource standpoint too, we're major suppliers for municipalities in the Front Range, and so therefore there's a lot of stakeholders that have, they're very keen on what's going on up in Leadville, and so we have that opportunity to talk to students. These are very complex water resource issues, and if you're aware of what's going on in the West, a lot of the parts of the West experience some serious drought. And so water is gold. And then also just from the water resources to water quality, all the way down to aquatic habitats too. We've had rivers that have been decimated for over 100 years, and now they're what we call gold medal streams. And people fly from all over the world to go fish our rivers up here. And so that makes this place really unique. We're kind of a nice blending, a blend of people have a lot of interest from recreation standpoints to tourism to, just even the natural beauty of this area too, which is, unprecedented from my standpoint. There's a lot going on, and so we can go from, different ecosystems to different hydrology, to different geology, just within Lake County itself. And so it provides a lot of diversity for students to be exposed to.
I think we're seeing, go ahead.
If I can build upon the proximity part, I think that the experience that students get here is so much more valuable. You're not getting in a bus or a van and driving an hour to go study illogical pine forest. You're literally walking across the parking lot and stepping out onto some of our trails that we have, the trail system behind CMC. And I was able to teach the forestry and drainage component of our field monitoring and measurements course in the fall semester, and I was able to just walk students right outside of our building and teach them the components of that course. So my own personal experience having gone to Colorado State University in Fort Collins, we had to get in a bus and drive 2,000 feet or 3,000 feet up in elevation in order to access those zones. So, over an hour drive, whereas here you just get to walk outside. So I think proximity is a huge thing to point out with Leadville campus, is that the water resources, the forestry, everything that we're studying is just outside of our door. So,
just to build off of what Katy was saying, our campus here, in addition to just our buildings that we have where you take your classes and live here, if you're in our residence hall, we have several hundred acres. Rachel, maybe you have the number, and if not, we'll figure it out. 289 acres of land adjacent to our buildings here on campus, and like Katy was saying, it's just an amazing opportunity to be able to go outside with a class, and you're right out in the forest, and you can talk about a variety of different things. Lake County itself also has a fairly large percent of public lands. I don't know the exact percent, but 73% of Lake County is in public lands. We had to look that up recently for something. I thought Dirk might know the answer. So we have amazing resources that are nearby that allow us to, maybe we do have to get in a van and drive not an hour, but maybe only 10 minutes, and we can be on the other side of the county looking at an example of a forest or a formation or something that we wouldn't be able to do if we were in a different location. So we're situated in an excellent spot for learning about a wide range of natural resource topics.
And I think a trend I'm seeing is more and more projects related to recreation. With such a high percentage of public land, we're seeing increased usages of public land, bikers, hikers, hunters, and that requires maintenance of travel pathways and campsites and things like that. So we're seeing that sector of natural resource management kind of pulled into some of our project work.
Great. Well, I think that's a great segue into maybe moving on to the topic of what it's like to be a student here and actually live, because you're choosing a program, but you're also choosing somewhere to spend a couple of years of your life. So maybe, Taylor, can you fill us in? I'm not exactly sure if you lived in our residence hall, if you lived in town, but maybe just how it was to be just living here and studying here and part of this community.
Yeah, absolutely. Originally from Texas, and one of the things that brought me up to this location specifically and into this program was just an amazing location in which it's settled here. So first off, it was a fantastic first exposure to what public lands are and these beautiful mountains, these 14ers that are just towering over the town of Leadville here. So it already sets you up for such a nature-focused mindset and how you can go forward with that. So that's a good base. I didn't live in the residence halls. I was a little bit older when I started, so I didn't have to. Lived in town, but it's a great small community. Has a lot of great community resources, and just the outdoor recreation aspect of living in a community like this. It keeps you outside, and it keeps you smelling the clean air, and you're just more connected to exactly what you're learning. So it's a well-rounded experience, and if you're into skiing and snowboarding, a couple really great mountains in close proximity. Our small one, Ski Cooper, and Copper's just down the road, and Monarch is not too far. So it's quite a destination for your snow sports, also the backcountry stuff. Just tons of opportunities to get outside and really enjoy nature. So it's a good base.
Great. That's why we all love living here too. So, all right. Well, we have a few moments left. So if there's any other questions, get them in on Facebook Live, please. And if there's anybody in the room, think about your questions. But why don't we start at the end with Katy, and if you could just give sort of your two-sentence reason why a student might want to choose this program, and then we'll go along the line.
I think the thing that sticks out to me most with CMC is just, again, the one-on-one time that you spend with your instructors and staff and faculty, the relationships that you build, and how much more meaningful your education is because of that. I feel like, having come from a background of sitting in a 200-person lecture hall. The experience here is so much more valuable and meaningful.
I would second that. I would say access to professional resources, professional human resources, and then access to outdoor pursuits and to lead a healthy lifestyle.
Yes, I think overall the experience that you gain here that sets you up for success and finding the perfect career for you in the future, the connections you make, it's really a very smooth transition. You're really able to build that resume and make those connections and just really get out in the workforce if that's what you want to do. So.
Well, I think what really brought me to CMC was just the nature of the program itself. And because I've never really heard about a program where students had, that much access to these projects and experiential learning. And, on top of that, what it does, and it's kind of a theme on this campus, that it also brings, the instructors are really passionate about what they do. I get really excited about very certain things. And, natural disasters, rocks, volcanoes. I mean, there's some really fun things that I love to talk about. And the nice thing is we can demonstrate or show examples of them just outside our door. And so I think that's a very big draw for this particular campus. And then plus there are some really awesome trails around here. There's great mountain biking trails, great cross-country ski trails, and they go through these amazing aspen groves in September that you see on postcards, and you can visit those every day if you wanted to. And so students, I mean, as an incoming student, it's something to really take advantage of because it's really special too.
Wow, these guys have had some really good ideas. What's left, right? I think I would reiterate everything that they've said already. I think having small class sizes and access to faculty, and also just to any sort of additional help that you might need with your classes, whether that's tutoring, doing peer tutoring, office hours where there's actually time to meet with faculty, are just excellent resources, and all of the hands-on learning opportunities through the courses like Kato was saying, as well as through work study and through the Field Institute in the summertime, are invaluable.
Great. Well, as we wrap up here, I need to get to some housekeeping. So remember that registration begins on May 7th for our fall semester. So look at registering. Also, applications for CMC are free online, so there's no reason not to apply. What happens when you apply then is that our wonderful, amazing staff just leaps into action and starts sending you all kinds of information and opportunities here on campus. We have some really amazing scholarship opportunities. Our tuition is extremely affordable. And then on top of that, we just secured an opportunity for students who move into our residence hall in the fall and stay for the whole academic year to get a ski pass at Copper Mountain that comes with your residence hall room. You do not have to pay for it. You do have to be in good academic standing, and there are a few rules and regulations, but you can actually come to CMC and have a no cost to you, I'm not going to call it free, a no cost to you full ski pass for the ski season next year. So that's a great selling point. Our website is www.coloradomtn.edu. Go on there and find all the information you need, including tuition costs and ways to connect with everybody you see here on the panel, ways to connect with the campus. Come up and visit. We're always here, and thanks for joining us this evening. It's been a great event. Thanks very much.